Jesus saves. Morgan can't be killed, and Rick runs into an old friend under very unfriendly circumstances. The war rages on The Walking Dead, Season 8, Episode 2, The Damned. Hey everyone, D here, and welcome to this week's review of The Walking Dead. So, of course, as usual, lots of spoilers. Alright, so the war does wage on tonight, and as we had guessed, this is going to be playing out over a huge chunk of this first part of the season, if not the whole first half of the season. And I loved how they set up the opening bit, how we're carrying forward, and they do the opening with just the close-ups of the face and the sort of reaction shots. And them starting with Rick, I was wondering if they're going to start to do some more Rick flashback, flash-forward sequences, which I'm glad they did not. I'm glad they avoided that. But instead, going from character to character, kind of where we last saw them, where they're beginning this, this section of the tale, under all of their circumstances, whether it be Rick and Daryl heading up to try and get the 50 calibers, or Carol and Ezekiel reacting to the sort of smoke bomb explosion, the walkers coming back, or Morgan and Tara getting ready for their section of the assault. So I loved how they did that. I love the slow motion. I love the music behind it. I mean, it got me kind of energized, got me pumped and ready to go. The only real downside of that, unfortunately, was them cutting over to Mara and Todd the Fish there on the Savior's side of the battle, which kind of pulled me out of it. You know, I was kind of hoping they're going to use that pump and we were just going to go like right from that moment and dive right in. But, of course, since these are separate groups that are all doing separate things, I think it was important, you know, after seeing how everything played out, that they did that as the establishing moment and then began the tale from all of those points. That did kind of work with me. I guess in a way, if they had transitioned one of those points, say the Ezekiel Carol bit, where they're reacting from that and then going right into the Walker attack from that point, and then we went to the Mara Todd Savior section there, I don't know. Maybe that would have flowed a little bit better for me, but minor little point. Now, one of the questions I had in my mind as this battle progressed is how reliable is the information that Dwight has provided? And I like the fact that that's actually addressed between Rick and Daryl at a moment where Rick is saying, hey, everything that Dwight is saying is panning out right now. Daryl, of course, not totally on Dwight's side right now. But I think that I like the fact that they addressed it, but I also like the fact is we really don't get a definitive answer even as we're continuing to go through this section of the attack. Because while, yes, the early information played out of where the guards were on the outside, the outside warning system, and how they were taken down, and sort of where, and the general idea where everything is set up, that has played out. But also, if you're thinking from a deception standpoint, don't you want to give information out that's going to play and work? And then maybe second them, you know, first piece, that's good. Second piece, oh, that's good. You're going to trust a little bit more. Third piece, they go in trusting, and then bam, you get them. So I don't think it's still really definitive whether or not Dwight's information is good or not, if Dwight's on the side. Because it could also be, could be that Dwight's totally on everyone's side, on Rick's side, and wants to help out, and the intelligence is good. Could be that he's lying, that he's telling some of the truth, and that he's going to lie. Or it could also be that he might be trying to be truthful, but Negan has made some changes, possibly without Dwight knowing, whether or not he might suspect Dwight. Could be something else that's going on. How much is Eugene? Everybody is prepared for this. You know, we ended last season with the battle, and then the preparations where we get Negan saying, we're going to war! And then we had the opening speech here where some time has passed. So it's not just out of the blue where the attacks are coming from. So Anyway, I like the fact that not everything went totally smooth, so you can't always tell, at least at the moment, is Dwight really on the team's side, or is he still over on Negan's side? So we got a few big thrusts through this episode. I think we'll try and hit on pretty quick. Also, we had the beginning attack there with Mara and Todd the Fish on the Savior's side. I like Saviors being smart. I love the enemy being smart. From Mara's perspective, yes, it was right to put Todd in his place. He's taking things too lackadaisical, and she should just shut up and get this work done. But I like how Mara's reaching on the radio, and here there's no response from anyone, and that means, and it was funny because when she calls up Todd, there was that brief moment where Todd doesn't reply, and like, oh my God, if they already taken Todd out, he just went inside. But no, that's when the armored cars show up, and we have the assault led by Aaron and his little boyfriend Erik. Sorry, and you know what? It was cool. You kind of see for a moment there how excited Aaron is that Erik is with him, and Erik doing a good job with the battle too. I mean, he's fighting, he's being stalwart, he's taking guys down. And a little relationship, little love and battle going on right here between the two of them. I thought that was nice. The battle overall, that section of it, I thought was good. It seemed to go on an excessively long period of time. And especially compared to the other sequences, how much was going on with Morgan and Tara, and how far Rick and Daryl were going and trying to search out through the tower where they were at, the plaza. This particular battle seemed to go on for a long period of time, considering how many people were there and how close the quarters were. And all of that ammunition and shooting. I always think, too, it's like we're in the apocalypse and everybody is using ammunition at this point like it's never going to end. Just maybe a bit more cautionary on that. It seemed almost too much for too long. I like the idea that the whole goal was to pin them in and not to move in. For Mara, she thought, oh, they're wusses. They're not coming in. They're not brave enough to make the move. Until, of course, she realizes all they need to do is hold them down long enough for the dead to wake up and attack them from within. So I thought that was kind of clever. Mara did seem to kind of give it up there once she realized what was going on. But the Erik, the whole Erik-Aaron bit, okay. I like that Erik stepped up, that he was reading, that he wasn't waiting for Tobin, that it was too late, that they had to go to the other side to keep them from being flanked. That was all cool. When Erik seemed to have gotten pinned down and Aaron goes to help him, the car bit. Now, if he was out of ammunition, that would be one, but he only goes back like 10 feet, and he runs over those 3 people that would have been easier to probably shoot. It was big and it was dramatic, and yes, he's going to save the man that he loves, and that's kind of cool, but it also seemed almost an overly large gesture for the moment. And then where Erik suddenly got hit, was it just in that one shot where he turned? Because when they went for the blood, it seemed to have been completely clear, and then once Aaron saw it and put the hand up, then the blood started pouring out. I'm assuming he hadn't gotten shot through the car. So again, I liked it, was fine, was moving forward. There was a lot of really good sequences, a lot of tension, a lot of up and down that were happening. This wasn't just one of the ones that seemed a little weak, mostly because it just kind of went too long. And the Aaron rescue sequence just seemed overly complicated for such a small distance to cover. All right, and the Morgan and Tara battle sequence and Jesus sequence, that was cool. There was a lot more ups and downs, and, you know, we got to deal into some actual issues here. First off, Morgan's contention that he can't be killed. That was not wrong. He survived all this, and there's been many circumstances where he probably should have been killed. But really with Morgan in this whole sequence, we have such a turnaround from where he was. It's kind of almost like him and Carol is sort of a perfect pairing at this point. How much he has not wanted to kill before, how much he was thinking. Even they do little flashback discussions with Rick here when he's talking about life. You know, with life there are possibilities. You know, that was where Morgan came from. Whereas at this point, he is seriously committed to this mission, mind, body, and soul, and moving with almost a Jason/Michael Myers-esque approach. When he gets sort of knocked down because his two buddies don't finish up, sure, you shoot the first one, but when the rest of the crowd comes in, you have to continue firing. The one guy, obviously very nervous. They were setting that up from the beginning. And they're drawing in the fire that ends up creating complications really for Tara and Jesus in the midst of their sort of first prisoner dispute. So it was very, I mean, so we get this set up, and, you know, I knew that Morgan wasn't dead. I mean, not only just the proclamation that, you know, I can't be killed, but that's sort of a bad, that's not the way that you're going to take out Morgan in that sense. So I figured he was just wounded. But once he starts moving, I mean, his eyes open it up, it's totally, you know, horror-esque. Guy next to him, he's not quite dead yet. There's still a little bit of eye motion, which was kind of sad. And he looks is just kind of like, well, you're dead. It's your own damn fault. But Morgan just getting up, reloading, and they're just moving through all of the hallways. Just blam, 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 blam. Single shot, maybe a double shot to one or two. Constant, total death machine. Really reminded me of Carol. Quite frightening, and just such a change for Morgan. But I don't know, I think it kind of works for him. So while all of that is going on, we have, of course, Tara and Jesus coming through. I liked their tactics. I liked how they first were coming in, how they took out the few guards, and then they stopped. And they were quiet. And they waited to see if there was any response. And then they moved in the next team. It's a slow, methodical, careful maneuvering, which if they're trying to do this coordinated, multi-pronged attack, and you can't really at that point afford to raise any ears on the Savior's side to what's going on, really the smart way to do it. I like that. But what we're dealing with really with Tara and Jesus on this is mercy. How far do you go? And this, in a way, continues on with the whole Rick bit, which, of course, that we will catch into. But that whole idea of when people surrender, do we have to kill? Now, Tara, of course, very upset. I mean, her girlfriend got killed. She is definitely on a willing murder spree at this point. And she's not wrong. When they do run into the Savior there, who pissed himself, hard to piss yourself. Hard to piss yourself intentionally. It's like your dick knows there's pants. Yeah, that was a line. But it was, I mean, it's interesting because, but Jesus brings it up an interesting point. Right or wrong? Yes, Tara is right. This person is lying. They are dangerous. We was ready to kill Jesus in a moment. But Jesus is also right in the sense of when people surrender, what is it that you're fighting for? Where is that moral line? Are you completely immoral because it's war and then you pick up your morality afterwards? Can't really do that. It's not an on-off switch. Once you go in and you make those choices and you're living that way, that is the way that things are. It's very difficult to pull up. Yes, everybody in this show has had arcs very similar to this. But it is still, it's an important point. Now, I am surprised that Jesus didn't kill the guy afterwards. I thought that was kind of weak. And in a sense, I almost wish that Tara had just shot him. Just in the sense of that would have seemed to have been right for the character. Once Jesus was like, I'm not going to do it, Tara, in a sense, should have shot him and just said, well, this is what we're going to do. It might have given the other scene, the follow-up scene when everybody surrenders, maybe a bit more weight of her willing to then not do it. Anyway, it just kind of surprised me that Jesus didn't end up killing the guy after he had the gun to his head and said, oh yeah, I was totally lying. I completely making all that up. But then we do have the surrender of the other people, and I think, again, Jesus' point is important. What are you fighting for? Are you just going to kill everybody? But if they surrender, is that a more moral position to go to? Now, whether or not Rick will end up agreeing with him, as Tara's throwing out there, that may end up being another question. considering with the little adventure that Rick goes through, I don't know. At one point you could say he might think a little bit more about Jesus, but as things end up, maybe not quite so much. Oh, but of course, as we're talking about the choices you make, it's hard to pull up from that. I think Morgan illustrated that perfectly when he does run back up into them and he's almost ready to kill that other guy. Must be justifiably so, considering that he had just killed the two guys he was right next to. But that's kind of that interesting question. I mean, has Morgan, is it hard for him to stop killing because he was just killing so much? He did walk into the light and get that, almost like out of the darkness into the light. A lot of symbolism here. Or is it also that he had committed so much to going in this direction, to taking down those own personal barriers and allowing the killer to come out, that maybe that's his commitment still in that direction. Just hard to tell. Now Ezekiel and Carol having a little bit of a different discussion on battle tactics there, and there is the fake it till you make it approach, which I love. I love Ezekiel. I love his big flowery language. I love how he presents himself. And then, like, to Carol, as a little aside, there's that wink and a nod of like, okay, this is the really real, but this is why I'm doing it. It's a great bit of character. And it's just interesting now that we're seeing Ezekiel, who had so much really pushed for peace and for protecting his people, is in this sense as a leader in the midst of battle, and definitely a leader in the midst of battle, is much more of the confident, we will win, how we will approach things, that will all be overcome. I mean, it was just, his physical presence really is an embodiment of those ideas, and as such is encouraging to the people around him. And he knows it. He understands that being a leader is a certain level of showmanship. You have to inspire the troops with you. You have to keep a positive idea, and even if you don't think it's all that positive, you have to maintain that so that your troops can believe it and continue to follow on. So, I mean, really, there wasn't a whole lot that went with them. One question really did come up, though, is what the hell did happen to that walker? All partially melted. That may not be something that we discover up until next week. I'm hoping that there's some intricate trap or thing, because it looks like, I don't know, toxic waste or acid, really. I mean, maybe like an acid explosion or poured on him. Some sort of trap. That would be an interesting, scary thing for the Saviors to have set up. But we'll have to sort of wait. Loved also Sheba. I love the fact in the beginning how he gives the order to and release Sheba, which just sounded awesome. And the payoff that it's Sheba who ends up catching the guy that they're going after and taking him out was perfect. It was really a nice way to bring it all around, and of course, any tiger attack is going to be encouraging. And Rick and Daryl going after the .50 caliber guns at the Shepherd Office Plaza. Again, a lot of information that Dwight gave to him. Still don't know how much of that is all reliable and good. And again, I say that just because when we did have all of the movements of everyone through the building, even with Rick and Daryl, yes, they're meeting resistance, but it didn't seem the same level of resistance you might expect. You know, people caught on the couch, sure, but it didn't seem like as many saviors as you think would be there. Which is, again, why I'm sort of curious about the whole Dwight thing. But with Rick and Daryl, we have them moving through looking for the guns. The really things that we run into with this is, of course, Grace, or Gracie, and Gracie's dad. I'm assuming who that was. Grace be God, I think was this tattooed over the heart. Brutal fight sequence right there. Really intense. Real, like I said, just back and forth, harshness. Choking out that guy and him not giving up, and you know, I was wondering if he was going to snap his neck, how he was going to do it, and then impales him on a bookcase supports or bookshelf supports. And those things are dangerous, man. I didn't think that dangerous, but you know, good to know that. Just really cruel, really harsh on that fight. It was beautifully done. but perfect when he ends up going into the next room where he thinks that the guns are, and it ends up being the little baby Gracie, who is not the last we're going to see because Rick's not just going to leave her there. But an interesting shot. Great reaction from Andrew Lincoln there, realizing what who the guy was protecting wasn't guns, one's a baby. He did say there are no guns when Rick was asking him, which again brings up the whole Dwight, how truthful is he, what's going on here. Understandable, obviously, fighting that hard to protect your kid. What's going to happen with that? Not sure. Who's going to watch the little baby? Could be Morgan? No. Father Gabriel? No, he's probably dead. I don't know. Tara? Doesn't seem that motherly. But I'm sure we will find someone. But not the only unexpected run-in that Rick ends up having. The other one is, of course, Morales. From way back in season 1. Yes, remember when the group ended up going into the CDC, Morales and his family were heading to Alabama where his wife has family. And we're going to try and go check that. And that's the last that we've seen of them. So obviously things didn't work out quite as well as he expected. He said that was a long time ago. We don't know if his wife, any of the rest of his family is with him. He didn't seem to imply that. But this is where we have been suspecting the crossover for Fear the Walking Dead is going to happen, because this is the only person that hasn't been around that basically has a chance to connect in with the timeline currently where Fear is, because Fear's at about that point, a couple of months into the apocalypse. We are here with Walking Dead about 2 years into the apocalypse. So this could be where we're going to have our little connection, that at some point we'll get a flashback from Morales to find out what happened after he had left Atlanta. Did he get to Alabama? Did he get there with his family? Did that not work? Did he end up going down to Texas, where they're implying maybe the next stage of Fear is going to happen, and then some sort of stuff that goes on there? Would be interesting if through all of this we do get some background on the Saviors. Maybe it was started somewhere else and then came up into Georgia. I mean, we don't really have that information. The comics might, we don't. So I'm kind of curious where they're going to connect that, but this is most likely why we're having Morales sort of come back in at this point, is because this can give that now crossover potential with Fear that they have promised is going to happen. Though it also seems that he is the one that made the radio call, or at least made the initial radio call, that then Ezekiel picks up there with him and Carol's group, finding out that now they know that they're coming, now they know that the Saviors know that Rick's group is coming, and is it time to give up? No, of course not. Not for Ezekiel, certainly. He has already roused the troops. He is already dedicated. He is going to be bringing his people forward. That's going to work out the best. Well, it's The Walking Dead. Things never, ever go smoothly. Alright, just a couple of small things. One, when Daryl and Rick are heading into the Shepherd Office Plaza, we just see the back of the heads of the two guys, the two guards, and we hear over the radio, "Stay where you are, don't say another word." And then, and they both drop, which pretty much guarantees that neither of them are ever going to say another word. Anyway, I just thought that was comically appropriate. When Jesus calls for the Saviors to give up, I just love the one's response of, "Well, living sounds good to me. Come on, guys, put your guns down. Let's not be as dumb as they think we are." Which in some way gives a sense of humanity to them, that, look, we're not just here to die for Negan. We do want to live. On the other hand, still that kind of attitude does make you think, are they just going to wait for their moment to turn around and stab you in the back? Piss their own pants. Just to let you know. The bit of graffiti that drew Tara's attention as they were first moving in, Tommy says, "Kill the bitches," and then arrows down, looked like to 3 bullet holes with a little bit of blood looking coming from them. So just, you know, a real nasty insight into the Savior's daily lives. course Tara's really going to feel murdery after seeing something like that. Alright, I think that pretty much covers everything. And of course we end kind of as we begin with those little close-up, face-centered reaction shots from everybody of where they are. Daryl still wandering around the plaza there. Don't know what had happened with him. And then of course we have Erik shot. Aaron very concerned about his boyfriend. Tara not too sure about keeping all of these prisoners. With Jesus seems a little more confident on that. And then of course Ezekiel ready to press on despite the fact that the saviors know they are coming, and maybe even inspiring Carol there. So nice way to end it as they began it. Certainly let us know that this battle is going to continue forward. Definitely not as smooth as they had hoped now that the rest of the saviors are aware that they're coming. So, more to come next week. But that's it for now. So if you did enjoy this review, you know what we like. Go ahead and hit the like button. You can also share, because sharing is caring. Thoughts, ideas, comments, please throw those down in the section below. What do you think about the episode? Where do you think things are going? Tara was right, wasn't she? Or was Jesus right? What do you think about those morals of combat that they brought up? Throw those down in the section below. We'll keep our little dialogue going. You can always catch me on Twitter and Instagram. I am at Darren Jakes. But if you're not a subscriber, please be one. It's quick, it's easy. You gotta hit one button. It's my face, and it's right here. Do that, and you won't miss any of our reviews, of which we'll throw a couple right back up here. We'll talk, let's see, Mr. Robot and Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency. Both of them awesome. Anyway, that's it for me. I'm D, and I'm out of here. Catch you guys next time. Bye-bye.